Hello travelers, Boardman21 here, and welcome back to another video. In this one, we are going to cap the top 5 season starters, our cycle starters, or if you're from PoE, league starters. These are going to be 5 builds that will get you from level 1 into the end game as quickly as possible without requiring any items. There'll be no uniques, no legendaries on these builds. They just synergize their skills really good. They have like good AoE, good damage, and can just fly you through the campaign as quickly as possible without needing any gear. Now, there are 2 new masteries coming in 1.0, so this list could change shortly after the launch of 1.0, but for now, these are 5 that I have played, and I can confirm that all 5 of them are very, very fast ways to get to the end game. In the description below, I'll have links to the leveling guides. Some of those are from Terek, and then a couple of them will be mine. And if you've been wondering what you're going to start the first cycle in Last Epoch on, here's 5 really good choices. So let's go ahead and get started. First up, we have the Autobomber, which it should come without any surprise that I would list this first, as this is almost always my cycle starter. In Last Epoch, every time a new patch has came out, Autobomber has been the first thing that I always go to. However, in 1.0, I may be changing that up since we will have 2 new masteries and lots of new stuff to do. I may not go with this, but for anyone who's never played the Autobomber, it's definitely a solid choice. It requires absolutely no uniques to work, although in the end game, you can add some to really scale it up. So not only is it a good build for getting through the campaign and into the end game, but it's actually a build that can take you all the way through the end game and do all the content in the game as it has to provide at this moment. On top of that, you can see that you just have devouring orbs absolutely annihilating everything in an area around you, while you just keep shield rushing forward, and it allows you to just fly through the campaign and the maps. With that, let's move on to number 2. Coming in at number 2, we have the Hydra Runemaster, and I just leveled one of these, and it was really fast. About level 15, I unlocked the Hydra. As soon as I got invocations with my mastery, all you do is hit lightning, fire, fire. You summon this construct known as the Hydra that's going to fire out fire projectiles and just absolutely destroy all the enemies around you, allowing you to just keep zooming, either teleporting or using flame rush as I did through the entire campaign and into the end game. It's very tanky. There's lots of ways to generate ward. On top of that, you don't really have to get in the fight yourself, as you just let the Hydra do it, who has an entire screen worth of range. It is a very good cycle starter, and if you haven't played the Hydra yet, I definitely recommend this one. Coming in at number 3, we have the Shadow Dagger Bladedancer, and with this one, it is very fast. All you have to do is shift through the entire campaign. Your shift will drop Umbral Blades. Your Umbral Blades will spin in a circle, inflicting enemies hit with Shadow Daggers, and at a certain threshold of stacks of Shadow Daggers, which by default is 4, you will have the plunge effect doing a huge critical amount of damage to the enemies. And what this ultimately means is you can just keep shifting and let all the enemies just fall behind you and let them run into the Emerald Blades and die. And since all you have to do is continue shifting, you just go zoom through the entire campaign and into the end game. And just like all the other builds, this one does not require any uniques for this interaction to work. However, there are some uniques that you can put on in the later game in order to scale up the damage and turn it into a full end game build. Coming in at number 4, we have the Echo Warpath Void Knight, and this is our second entry from the Void Knight, which should tell you that you can't go wrong with the Void Knight as a cycle starter. In this one, you're warpathing from start to finish. You can channel it indefinitely, as it doesn't cost any mana with the right setup, and then of course as a Void Knight, you'll have a chance for it to echo, which means that you can continue moving from start to finish through a map and let the echoes clean up everything behind you. Again, this build does not require any uniques to get started, but there are some uniques in the game, especially with LP, that can push it to the next level. It is definitely viable as a cycle starter and as an end game build. Coming in at number 5, we have the Spirit Plague Lich, and this is played as the Acolyte class as the Mastered Lich, and for the campaign, all you do is throw Spirit Plague out on the enemies. It can spread to other enemies, especially when enemies die. You can cast it very fast, and it's a very powerful dot. On top of that, you'll be in Reaper form, which will allow you to reap and just continue to transverse forward into the game. You have an extra life, so you have great survivability, and overall it does a ton of damage through the campaign. In the late game, you'll probably end up switching Spirit Plague for something else like Hungering Souls, but with the addition of Death Seal and some Wandering Spirits, you can definitely take this build all the way through all the game's content. With that in mind, this is one of the fastest leveling guides, and I believe most people that hold records for the fastest campaign clears, a lot of them are done on the Lich. Alright, that's going to wrap up my top 5 cycle starters for you, the 5 that I think will be the best ones for a beginner-friendly new player to jump into 1.0 and do. Now with that in mind, there are obviously a lot of other options. There's going to be 2 whole new masteries coming that will have things that we haven't even seen before, so I plan to update this list shortly after 1.0 if we find some other really good leveling starters coming into the game. But that's going to be it for now. As always, stay safe and have a good one.